not committed to that time frame. You met with them today. Has he given you any assurances that he'd be willing to move forward on this bill before Christmas?
We've had a good meeting with Senator Manchin today. We mainly talked about climate issues, and we're going to get this bill done with 50 Democrats before Christmas. That's our goal. Yes, next. Well, as I said, we're going to get it done with Christmas, and our goal is to get all 50 votes before then. Yes. I couldn't hear your... Well, look, I agree with what the president said in terms of people getting vaccinated. I think he's taking good, cautious, and peremptory action on the new variant. And I hope the American people, I've said this yesterday to New Yorkers and to Americans, get vaccinated. The reason these new variants keep growing is they grow among the population that is not vaccinated. It gives the variant the ability to get started and then multiply, mainly in unvaccinated people. So even if you say, well, I don't want a vaccination for myself, by not being vaccinated, you are actually creating the sort of agar, if you will, for variants to grow. So get vaccinated. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Well, you sent me a note.
And we're also going to keep our historic economic growth moving. One of the ways we're going to do that is with the bipartisan infrastructure law that we signed into law 2 weeks ago. Over the next several weeks, I'm going to be traveling all over the country. And so will Vice President Harris and my cabinet and folks throughout our administration to show how these investments are going to change your lives, change the lives for the better. Because we know that we can't just build back to what it was before. That used to be the rule. If anything got wiped out by a weather event, you're able to build back that road to exactly the specifications it was before. But you can't now, because the climate's not going to get better. Hopefully we're not going to get worse, but you're going to have to build that road a couple feet higher. You can't build it back to what it was. You can't replace those high power lines that come down with the same kind of construction. They have to be built so they're more resilient. So that's what I mean when I say build back better. It's necessary. And schools like DCTC are going to help us do just that. Places like this, we're going to train the next generation of workers to do the jobs that my infrastructure law and our Build Back Better Act are going to put into even greater demand. We're going to need more qualified people. And we're talking about students learning how to repair electric vehicles and battery drivetrains, which our major auto manufacturers say will be 40 to 50% of all vehicles in the United States of America by the year 2030. Becoming line workers will need to modernize our electric grid, and commercial electricians who can help us install 500,000 electric vehicle charging stations. We're going to put in, including along the highways we're building, so you never have to worry about running out of power. You'll be able to train these construction managers to oversee all phases of construction projects.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, Chairman Powell, congratulations on your renomination. I do look forward to supporting your nomination. I think you've provided stability during a very challenging time. Secretary Yellen, it's good to see you once again, and I thank you for your service to our country. In September, when you were before this committee, I asked you when you would say enough is enough when it comes to our debt and deficit. You acknowledged that debt becomes an issue when it exceeds 100% of GDP, a level we have already hit, as you know, but said also that since the cost of servicing our debt has been negative due to a long stretch of low rates, our debt has been less burdensome. However, due to skyrocketing inflation, I think it's just a matter of time before we exit this very low interest rate environment. Do you think, Secretary Yellen, do you think it's finally time to start sounding some alarm bells with regard to the financing of our national debt?
Well, I wouldn't want to sound alarm bells. I think that we are on a sustainable debt path, but President Biden was very clear when he proposed the Build Back Better plan, that it should be fully financed as the infrastructure bill was, and that is what CBO found, that the fiscal plans that the Biden administration have put forth in infrastructure and Build Back Better will not worsen the debt or deficit path, and indeed by the end of the 10-year horizon, Build Back Better lowers deficits, and it yields very great benefits beyond the 10-year horizon, particularly from the investment in the IRS to enhance its ability to close the tax gap and to collect revenues that are due under our tax code.
Right.
So it is a fiscally responsible plan that makes matters better rather than worse.
Madam Secretary, I guess the reason for my question is that it's not just a matter of whether or not we have $500 billion or so that'll have to be financed or more during a 10-year time period as that money comes back in for paying for programs that are 4 to 5 years in duration under the proposal, but rather we have $29 trillion plus that will not only be refinanced during a time period, but may very well be refinanced at a higher rate. In fact, treasuries right now have run anywhere from 1.54 to 1.42% over the last couple of days, but they're going to trend upwards. And in fact, there are some people that would suggest that treasuries may very well hit 3.5% over the next 18 months. Do you think that would be a reasonable expectation?
The forecasts that were included most recently in the mid-session review assume that interest rates would move up over time over the 10-year horizon in line with the forecasts of Blue Chip and other private sector forecasters. And even then, given the expectation that real interest rates are likely to remain low, below levels that prevailed for much of the post-war period, for important structural reasons that we've seen plentiful savings at the global level and weak investment demand, even with interest rates moving up, the interest burden of the debt remains quite manageable. Now, of course, there are scenarios in which interest rates could move up more than that, and we could be in a